Hello again, welcome back. In these videos, this might just be one video, maybe two, we'll see. We'll be talking about the prophet Isaiah. And we'll start just with some historical and literary background. So, as I've mentioned a couple times in a couple different videos, the book of Isaiah records the writings of and the words of three different Isaiahs. This isn't unusual. This is pretty well accepted, and we generally know this through different style changes and then different historical references that the three prophets make. The first Isaiah is roughly active in the 8th century. Assyria was kind of the power at the time, and he does preach about the Babylonian exile, but he also promises salvation. The second Isaiah is active during the Babylonian exile, but towards the end, and he's the one who really preaches on the return and the theme of salvation. And then the third Isaiah is active after the exile. He's mostly confronting different issues involved with the reconstruction of Jerusalem and the reconstruction of the temple. So there's three Isaiahs in the book of Isaiah, but there's four voices. Obviously, each of the three Isaiahs has a different voice. The first one speaks with the voice of an ambassador. If we remember from the models of vocation stories, this is where the prophet is sent as an emissary from one king, God, to another head of state, to the Israelites, to the king of the Israelites. And this is present whenever Isaiah makes a reference to the Lord. This always connects back to Isaiah's vocation story, that the Lord is the one who sends. So this is part of why the three Isaiahs have been come to be grouped together, because they're all laying claim to that position of being an ambassador. The second Isaiah speaks with the voice of a prophet. He has a very lyrical style. And the third Isaiah speaks with the voice of a preacher. He preaches the good news. He proclaims the good news of salvation. And the fourth voice is the voice of the disciple. So the disciples of Isaiah contributed to the book. There are some biographical details that are included that come from the disciples. And it's important not to think of these four voices as distinct from each other. They're not four soloists, but together they create a harmony. And this is an excellent example of how God works through different men, to create the books of the Bible. That these four distinct voices all work together in unity and harmony. And the book of Isaiah, it was taken as a unit from pretty early. The New Testament, St. Paul and Jesus make references to various parts of the book of Isaiah as a whole. So from fairly early on, it was just taken as one unit and not as like three different books that were even later on put together as a whole. And there are references to the three different parts even within the book of Isaiah. And so it's not unusual. It shouldn't be jarring that there are three Isaiahs, and that they're all present in this one book. But they've come to be considered together as a unit for quite some time, and for pretty good reasons as well. And the theological themes present are, the big one is salvation. A lot of the other ones are connected to this theme. We also see the Messiah as a major theme, the remnant of Israel, and the importance of Zion and Jerusalem. And these are all linked back to salvation. So salvation is a main theme throughout the book of Isaiah. Another important theme is the title of the Holy One of Israel. As I talked about in a previous video, this is the Holy One. God is transcendent. God is totally apart from man, but at the same time he's co-involved. He's involved with the Israelites. He is the one who called Israel into existence. He loves them, and he expects obedience. Doesn't always get it. Mostly doesn't get it. But being the Holy One, he's good to the humble. He's the Redeemer of exiles, the Restorer of Zion and Jerusalem, and that one day the whole world will recognize God as the Holy One of Israel. So that's all present there within the title, the Holy One of Israel, the name for God, the Holy One of Israel, his co-involvement with his people. And this time we're going to look at two different texts from Isaiah. Let me move this out of the way. The first one, Isaiah chapter 40, verses 1 through 2. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. So my people, God has chosen the Israelites. They belong to him. So this double comfort indicates salvation. But notice here down at the end in verse 2, received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. There are kind of couple different ways of understanding this. The first way is kind of maybe the more obvious way, that there will be double punishment for all the sins. But the other way that we can understand this is that this is like a double measure of salvation. Notice that comfort is repeated twice. The comfort is doubled. So despite all the sins, there will be a double measure of mercy. Another thing that's important here is that this double measure is received from the Lord's hand. It's a gift. Salvation, comfort, consolation. It's all a gift from the Lord that we're not worthy of receiving because of the sins, but we're also, we can't reach out and grab it. It's a merciful gift from God, and we'll receive a double measure of it despite the sins. And this theme of the double comfort is repeated in Isaiah chapter 51. Move this up. Okay, nice. Notice down here in verse 3, for the Lord will comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places. So again, that double comfort. And here in verse 1, hearken to me, you who pursue deliverance or justice. Some translations, I think I've also seen vengeance. So those who seek it will find it. If you seek God, you will find him. I've already talked about this double comfort. But notice, he will comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places. So again, this salvation, this comfort that's coming, it's not just for those who have earned it or for those who are worthy, but this encompasses everything. It encompasses Zion and the waste places, the ruined places, those moments of history that are bad, that are ruins. So God is embracing everything, the good and the bad. And then again, as I've mentioned many times, my people, despite everything, despite all the waste places, all the ruin throughout Israel's history, God is still with his people, and he still claims them for his own. And then another thing that my professor pointed out, who knows Hebrew much better than I do, is that this comfort is better translated as comfort with me. So again, the Lord is extending the invitation to the prophets to participate in this act, this gesture of giving comfort and consolation to his people. And this same invitation is extended to us as well. We are called to take an active role in that comfort, above all to the prophets, but also to this call is also for us. This invitation is also for us to participate with the Lord in comforting his people.